What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talkin ATL Hawks. This is episode 52. We are officially now 7 games into the season for the Atlanta Hawks. At previous episode, we covered our first 3 games against the Raptors, the Magic, and the Thunder, where we finished. We went 1-2 in that opening 3-game slate. And ever since then, we have had 4 consecutive road games in Chicago, Brooklyn, Indiana, and a game that just capped off about an hour and a half ago in Cleveland. And we are going to get into all 4 of those games for you because, guys, I shouldn't have to be the one to tell you guys this, but these 4 games have been an absolute roller coaster. Some good, some bad, and some very, very tragic. But we're going to get all into it in just a minute. As always, I am joined by the greatest diehard Hawks fans there are, my brother Chase and my buddy John Joyner. Guys, how we feeling today?
You know what? It's been a rough day over all my sports. So you know
Amen.
what? And it's been a tough day. But hopefully this week it'll be better.
Fair enough.
Yes, same way. I mean, at least me and Angie, our Seminoles won yesterday, but today we went as our Falcons lose a heartbreaker, and then right after our Atlanta Hawks lose another heartbreaker. Both hard-fought games, both hard-fought losses. We're on the wrong side of the hopeful outcome. So, spoiler alert, obviously you already know we'll be talking
Yeah.
about that Cleveland loss. But as Angie also mentioned, there were some bright sides this week concerning Hawks basketball. Some news, we got some updates we want to share with y'all, kind of cover. Obviously, most notably, Trae Young going to be out for a month, possibly more once he gets reevaluated. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But I guess if y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and start recapping these games.
Absolutely. So we're going to start things off in Chicago, which was the game right after the conclusion of a very disappointing Oklahoma City outing against Oklahoma City. So going into
I
this
wouldn't say
game,
I wouldn't say that it's disappointing because I mean, because they were the defending champions. So I wouldn't say it's disappointing. The fact that we only lost by 17 is I
well,
mean
I say disappointing in the sense that the Hawks really want to be finals
yeah
going out by
right,
teams like that on your home court. Like, yeah,
yeah
you could argue that Oklahoma City is the most complete, the best team in the NBA. But if you want to prove yourself worthy of making a finals run, then that can't be an excuse for that kind of loss. Now, if it
yeah
was a close game or if it was on the road, I would give it a little more leeway. But considering that game was at home, there was just no excuse for that kind of stuff. Um, but so this game was in Chicago, and going into this game, something that's kind of slowly become a factor for the Atlanta Hawks is something that we've all kind of feared because it's become more of the inevitable in the NBA season, especially as it progresses. But the Hawks couldn't find consistency in their starting 5 every night. It seemed like up until this point, there's always one guy missing, one guy out, but nothing too drastic. Now, the Chicago game, we did have a semi-complete starting 5. We had Trae Young at the point, Dyson, Kristaps, Zachary, and Janet Johnson. Everything you would want out of the Hawks starting 5. So we were feeling good. But Chicago was on the up end. They were 2-0 going into this game. The Hawks 1-2. We knew this was going to be tough because we always struggle in Chicago. So, I mean, and right off the bat, this is exactly how you want to see the Hawks rolling. Because if you take a look at the game for face value, we shot 50% from the field, making 49 of our 98 shots, and that rhythm was really established in the first quarter. Good transition buckets. We're getting stops from the three-point line, which is perimeter defense has been a real struggle for the Hawks in the first 3 games of the season, but it's something that we saw that the Hawks were growing very weary of in the first quarter, which we're going to attest for this in the rest of the game is that the Hawks could not stop the Bulls from scoring inside the paint. And as you're going to find out pretty quickly, that's where the majority of the Bulls' points came from, was inside the paint, which is something that OKC did, which is something that Orlando did, which is something that Toronto most definitely did by scoring almost 100 points inside the paint on opening night. So this is something we really wanted to see the Hawks hone down on. But when you hear the Atlanta Hawks playing against the Chicago Bulls, the one name that always haunts our mind is Ayo Dosunmu. Yeah, I never really know how to pronounce that name because all the commentators just call him Ayo or Ayo. Yeah. But anyways, every time the Atlanta Hawks face off against Chicago Bulls, Ayo is always that thorn in our side that we can't seem to prick out ourselves. 21 points, only 2 assists and 3 rebounds, but most of his points came in the very pivotal fourth quarter in this game. And I want to shout out Josh Giddey as well. Kitty Fiddler, 18 points, 13 rebounds.
Scored over 17 points. Who would have figured?
Yeah, exactly. Like you think 17 is where he'd stop, but no, he actually decided to take the next step for once in his life. And my goodness, I mean, he's really established his home in Chicago after getting dumped by OKC. So I want to give a shout out to him. A pity shout out because he was really annoying in this game. But yeah, just inside scoring is something the Hawks were excelling on, but so was Chicago. But something that didn't really fit right with us was how Trae Young was playing on the scoring side. Now, when it came to assists, he gathered 8 assists in the first half in this game, and he actually finished off with 17. So we were like, okay, Trae's not shooting well, but the ball movement is looking really efficient because a big problem up until this point was Trae Young didn't really seemed like he knew how to equip his playmaking abilities with the new weapons he has around him. Because granted, this is foreign nature to him because he hasn't had these kind of weapons around him, but he was feeding the ball to Kristaps inside. He was dishing out to Zachary on the wing, who Zachary had a really tough night, just 2 points in 20 minutes and no rebounds and no assists whatsoever. But Jalen Johnson, making sure you gave him the ball when he was cutting to the rim because of how strong of a contact finisher he was. And what a compliment Nickeil Alexander-Walker was coming off the bench with 17 points. He was a good assist asset for Trae Young as well. But then again, the scoring efficiency was not there. He was taking the shots that were second nature to him, but nothing was falling. And that soon caught up to him, especially when we creeped into the second half, which really complimented Chicago's play. But what's y'all's guys' take on it? What one of you guys explain how Chicago kind of ran away within the second half?
I mean,
I don't want to say ran away, but you know what I mean. Kind of gathered momentum.
I mean, yeah, according to the game cast, they really took over in the second and third quarter, and we sort of fell apart. And especially in the second quarter, only scoring 23 points to their 30. When they really took charge, was the third quarter, scoring 41 third quarter points to our 34. That's when they really took charge. But yep. I mean, Trae Young, like you said, Trae Young struggling to score from the field didn't help whatsoever.
No, definitely not.
And they just took advantage of that defensively and just ran away with it.
Chase, why don't you carry us through the second half, Chase?
I mean, I would say, Angie and I, we were all talking about the group chat. The biggest mishap for the Atlanta Hawks defensively was just guarding the arc, guarding the perimeter. And, that's been a problem that's been showcased defensively all season long. But I say it was at its worst here in Chicago, especially.
You wouldn't say that. I think the main problem in that game was inside scoring for Chicago. I think
I'd say it was outside scoring, and I'd say most notably, as I was saying, down the stretch in the fourth quarter. I mean, you look numbers wise, the Bulls shot a total of 16 3-pointers, shot 16 for 42, but majority of those shots were wide open looks, especially in the fourth quarter. Go back and rewatch the fourth quarter, and when the Hawks looked like they had a sustained lead, we were up by 5 with about 5 minutes left. Watch the final 5 minutes and see how many times they were wide open for 3. Most notably, Montas, or remember, the dagger was shot by Nikola Vucevic at the top of the key, which he's been one of the best big man shooters in the NBA for years, and we leave it wide open. And Naked Kongu just sits back, watches him settle to take a shot from the top of the key, and doesn't press up. Watt doesn't close out, doesn't go reach out and try to defend the shot. He watches him, takes it, he drains it nothing but net, and that's ultimately the dagger. And I remember Angie and I were just at the apartment losing our mind. And it confuses me because I think it can kind of contest what you said, Andrew. You talk about how for a majority of the game the Bulls were attacking inside. Their inside scoring was phenomenal, and I wonder if because we were so honed in on trying to shut them down inside that we just lacklusterly let them open around the perimeter and kind of force them to take shots from the outside so they stopped coming inside, which they only did in the fourth quarter. The problem was they started draining them. Montez and Vucevic were 3-point shooters lights out in the fourth quarter, and we made no adjustments. We sat there and watched them, and to me, that's ultimately why we lost. We had that game under control until we forgot how to defend the perimeter.
It's a tough one to really decide because when you're a Hawks team led by Quinn Snyder, who defensively lives and dies by the zone, you're going to be prone to leaning your body more towards the paint, which is going to give the upper edge to guys who are standing at the top of the key or guys who are standing in the corner. And if you ask me, I think we countered their 3-point shots pretty well. I mean, both Hawks and the Bulls shot relatively the same in terms of 3-point percentage, and we took just about the same amount of 3-point attempts. And I feel like that's okay because if you when you're as inside dominant as the Bulls are, I'm okay with letting the game lean on the hands of Vooch shooting a three. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna look at a Kongu and say, yeah, you should have been up more because I'd rather him take a step back. Now, could he have closed out better? Absolutely. I mean, that's something that we see the Hawks lack every single night is closing out the 3-point shots. But I'm not gonna say that defensively a Kongu broke down in that aspect.
Okay.
Maybe he should have shown more effort, but I do like what you said about the closing minutes of this game because remember the Hawks were
I do want to stop you real quick before we get too far off the topic here. I do want to make
you that on topic, which was what I was going to say.
Well, no. I do want to make a correction. The Vucevic shot was way earlier in the fourth quarter. The dagger I was talking about actually came from Josh Giddey, and I'll let you finish your point, Andrew, but just watching the replay, Josh Giddey's three actually reminds me my biggest frustration of the night. So go ahead and finish your point, Andrew, and then I do want to share my ultra frustration.
Well, I was just going to say, and, this is going to pinpoint another problem that's going to be a common theme in all the other games we talk about, is the Hawks were up by 6 in this game with 5 minutes left. I mean, we had the keys to lock the door, but we didn't. And most of the problem came from frantic offensive possessions where we moved the ball too much, which prevented us from having an open look to extend our lead and close the game even further. We were forced into a bad shot. And then on the defensive side, we couldn't grab a defensive rebound. I mean, defensively, Chicago out-rebounded us by 11, and that countered with the 12 offensive rebounds they had. And 4 of them came in the final 5 minutes of the game where we couldn't maintain possession to close out. Chicago was given the opportunity to get those second chance points, and that's how they gained the lead and eventually put our backs against the wall, which is really infuriating because the Hawks defensively was very sound. Dyson Daniels had 3 steals. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 2 steals. The Hawks had 8 steals total in this game, and we forced Chicago into 14 turnovers. We only had 6 turnovers ourselves. We were careful with the ball, but in the final stretch of the game, we moved the ball too much. We didn't have any efficiency with the plays that we were running. We didn't do any picks. We just stayed stagnant. We were forced into bad shots, and then we couldn't rebound, and that's when our team completely broke down, which again, very infuriating because we came into the fourth quarter coming off a very, very good end to that third.
Okay. I do have to severely disagree with you when you say we played sound defensively. I can fully agree with that in the first quarter. Second half defense was probably one of the worst defense I've seen the Hawks play all year. And this is why.
You just reiterated what I said because I said we broke down defensively in the second half. I said
listen, please listen. I need to get this frustration out. This is where we went wrong. Alluding to the point earlier when I said the Bulls were dominating inside, and then we almost tried to force him to shoot outside, and we couldn't find the answer. The problem was on same side screens. I think this. I wish we could show y'all the replay, but we tried this last year and we ended up getting a copyright strike. So I can't.
You can't show film anymore.
Can't really show the film, but I can explain it. So it was in the final man of the game when the Bulls were up by 3. It was Trae Jones that had the ball at the top of the key, and Vucevic came around and set a screen on the left side. Well, Trae Jones went the opposite side and went right. Well, Trae Young went around Vucevic to follow him, but instead of Porzingis going the other way to cover the perimeter, he followed Trae Young. So then all of a sudden, you had Trae Young and Porzingis trapped on Trae Jones, and then Giddey just sneaks to the top of the key where he kicks him out, hit the dagger. And that reminds me of I will get to the Cavs game tonight. That was a problem tonight. Anytime the Cavs set a screen, it was the same thing. We had 2 people follow the same player, the same guard around the screen, leaving the other guard right up and around the perimeter. And I think that's exactly what we're wrong in the second half against Chicago. And it was a mixed match of different ways they attacked the perimeter. But no matter what they did, we had no defensive answer.
That's just a lack of off-ball defensive movement that we have. Because you talk about the Cavs game, that's what the Cavs abused with Larry Nance and Evan Mobley, and they let Donovan Mitchell bounce around the screen until he had separation because we kept getting caught in our own feet. So we couldn't. That's just a lack of defensive presence that we have. Now, John, I want to ask you a question. This is actually a conversation that Chase and I had at church this morning with one of our guys from church who's also a big Hawks fan, and we were talking about how much of a defensive liability that Trae Young is, which is really conflicting because you want him on your team because of his ability to make plays and his ability to score at times, but he's such a liability defensively that it's almost like when he's on the court, when you're playing defense, it's a 5-on-4 instead of a 5-on-5. So would you be opposed to the Hawks? Let's reverse it back to the Chicago game. We're up by 6 with 5 minutes left. Let's say Quinn decides to pull Trae Young out of the game for the final 5 minutes and throws Nickeil Alexander-Walker out there to have your 2 best guard defenders on the court at all times. Now, you're taking away the playmaking presence from Trae Young, but you're throwing Nickeil Alexander-Walker in there to close out the game better defensively. Do you think that's a bad strat?
I mean, not necessarily. Because like you said, and like I've been saying all the time with sports, defense win championships. If you're up, if you're up, you don't necessarily, you don't need to have a defensive liability like Trae Young out there. Even though he's a very good playmaker and a very good scorer, you don't necessarily need Trae Young. You have guys like Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis that can do this. That can do the scoring, and that's something I was going to talk to you guys later. I can go ahead and get this now. And I would like to counter that with a question for y'all. Do y'all think that that the Hawks should not use Trae Young as a first option, instead make that first option as Jalen Johnson?
Woo! I love it.
That's an interesting take, but I think it's a very fair take. And I think especially the way Jalen Johnson has played this week shows it even more. And I even told Andrew this the other day. The guy at our church, we were talking, I told him that, obviously Trae Young, we're going to miss Trae Young. I'm not saying there's a bright side of Trae Young being out, but the good thing is this is a chance for players like Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker to fluctuate offensively, and start to structure themselves chemistry-wise, so that way, hopefully, when Trae Young comes back, he'll have all of his weapons to the greatest extent. And we've seen players like Jalen Johnson has been the best player this week. He'll probably win Eastern Conference Player of the Week, if you ask me.
He's best player on our team this season, arguably.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So he's already showcasing himself like he could be a number one option. And then right next to him, we saw in the first week of the NBA season, Dyson Daniels was really poor offensively. But then this week, tonight against Cleveland in Indiana, he showed some really good offensive numbers, especially in terms of inside scoring. So there's another guy who's starting to pick it up offensively. We're still waiting for Zachary Richardson to hit his stride. He still hasn't really gotten there yet. But
Yeah,
I mean,
he's been
we
disappointing me this season. I'm not gonna lie. He's been
yeah,
sort of disappointing me.
I completely agree, but we know Zachary. We know the type
Yeah.
of player he can be. So just we can give it some time. But I mean, to your point, Joyner, I think just what we've seen this week in the second half of the Brooklyn game, the Indiana and Cleveland game, without Trae Young, I'd say absolutely. Like there's other options than Trae Young being the number one option, but Jalen Johnson would definitely be next in line.
Because think about it this way. Because Jalen Johnson also worked out. Because Jalen Johnson also worked out with LeBron this summer too. So you got to take that into account. That's why he's gotten better. Obviously, because there's no a better person than to work out than with LeBron James. So you can have that guy like Trae Young to play make. We get the ball to Jalen Johnson, Zachary, Luke Kennard, and Naba. Like if we need a 3-pointer, that's when we can go to Trae because Trae is our. Because Trae is arguably our best shooter on the team.
Yeah, and
arguably with Luke Kennard, obviously, but
yeah, and this is the direction that the Hawks need to start going in because I think the way we're evolving now and the way that Trae Young is kind of like, missed some time on the court at the end of last season and then starting off this year is Jalen Johnson is eventually going to be the number one option on the team. So I love that you brought that up, John, because he has every right to be considered the number one option on the team, which is no disrespect to Trae Young because I think
absolutely not.
I think that could cater to Trae Young's play style even more because we want him to be that Steve Nash kind of player as opposed to a Steph Curry archetype.
Like he was last year.
We want him to build his game upon dishing the ball to his teammates and scoring when the opportunity presents itself to him instead of him trying to make the opportunity come. Because that's when things get dysfunction. That's when his field goal percentage drops. When he tries to force shots that aren't there. But if he focuses on playmaking, I promise you the shots will be there for him. And Jalen can be that outlet.
And somebody said it in the group chat like a couple days ago, and you said like the reason why we lose these close games is because Trae Young tries to be that guy.
Exactly.
And force shots. Let me see if I can pull it up. We'll see if I can scroll back. But you did. Like you did put that out a couple days ago. So,
and this is
like exactly the issue with Trae. He tries to do too much, and we don't necessarily need him. He's got to trust his teammates.
Yep. And this is the year out of any year Trae Young's been in the league that he doesn't need to do that. This is easily by far the most stacked team he's been a part of. He has weapons on and off the bench. If there's any year Trae Young needs to just let go and be a playmaker, it's this year. And if he did that, it'd be better for himself, better for the team, and just better for Quinn Snyder too, because he doesn't have to deal with Trae Young trying to take over every possession. Instead, he can use 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to do equally as much damage on and off the bench. But that's only going to happen if Trae will start being a playmaker.
And one more thing before we get into the Brooklyn games. I know this is completely off topic, but something that I didn't like that Quinn Snyder did in the fourth quarter was we can all agree that the first half in Chicago was probably the best first half Kristaps Porzingis has ever played as a man.
100%.
I mean, from the moment the tip happened, I think 16 of his 27 points actually came in that first half. And the way that he was able to get the ball inside, post up whoever was on his back, and make whatever defender was guarding him a mismatch for him because he was able to get the shot up for himself over the defender, whether it was with footwork in the post or just to get around the defender simply and get a tough layup in. But in the fourth quarter, down the stretch, when the Hawks needed him the most, for some reason, Quinn Snyder subbed Kristaps in late when we were already losing momentum, as opposed to putting him in there to finish out the game. And then once we had him in the game for the final 4 minutes, we never fed him the ball. It's like he was the answer in the first half. We could have gone back to the basics of what started this run in the first place, but we ran away from what worked, from what was reliable, and that catered to Chicago, because they didn't have to worry about how are we going to contain Kristaps in the post, because we simply weren't giving it to him in that position. But I think it's time we move on to the Brooklyn game.
Yeah, we gotta move on.
I know we're getting over time, so I just want a quick yes or no for y'all. We don't have to go into detail. This is a proposed trade that, the Bulls have been interested in Trae Young for really since last year. And this is kind of a recent mock trade that has came out centered around Trae Young going to Chicago. So I just want yes or no. Do y'all think this is a good trade? We would give Chicago Trae Young and Muhammad Gay, and in return, we would get Kobe White, Javon Carter, Kevin Huerter, and a first-round pick.
We get Red Velvet back?
We get Red Velvet back.
We can't get rid of Muhammad Gay, especially the way that Quinn Snyder's been using him this year. His defensive presence is way too valuable to me to let him walk.
I do want to say yes, but Kobe White and Kevin Huerter plus a first-round pick is very enticing.
It's very enticing. Well, okay, I'm sorry. You cut out. I didn't hear the first-round pick. Okay.
Yeah, it's Kobe White, Javon Carter, Kevin Huerter, and a first-round pick.
Oh, I might take that then, because Kobe White is equally as good as an inside scorer as Trae Young, and we get a first-round pick. But losing Muhammad Gay would do so much to the.
Would Chicago do that though? Like, would Chicago realistically give us a pick?
Someone might. Well, I know Trae Young's very disvalued in the league, but someone out there is going to be willing to give a pick, and the teams that are going to be willing to do it are teams with a lot of draft capital, like Chicago. Chicago has a lot of picks to give up.
Oh, they do.
So,
and we'll kind of.
They have a lot of first-round picks up until like 2032.
We'll kind of touch base on that a little more once the trade deadline approaches, because that's going to be a very hot topic. But we're about 30 minutes in, and we still have 3 games to cover. So let's go ahead and jump into the Brooklyn game, because we've already talked a lot tonight about the Hawks playing without Trae Young and how that opens up the door for a lot of guys to step their foot in places they've never had to, because their role has just increased enticingly more bigger. So this Brooklyn game is the game where we lost Trae Young early in the first quarter, and it came after the Atlanta Hawks had a very rough start to this game against a winless Brooklyn Nets team. And after coming off a bad loss to Chicago, this was a win we really need to establish on the road. So Chase, why don't you start us off? Take us through the tragic first quarter, not only because of the slow start, but because of the player we lost.
Yeah, and this is another theme that we're going to be talking about for the next game, for the Pacers and the Cavs game. It's for all of a sudden the Hawks have kind of hopped on this trend where we just want to get off on a slow start, dig ourselves in a hole early. Like you mentioned, Angie, that's exactly what happened tonight. Brooklyn started the game up 12-0. And it's the same. It was the same with the Indiana and the Cleveland game as well. It was just, bad offensive movement on our end turned into quick transition buckets on theirs. And that's exactly key to what happened in Brooklyn. But as soon as we scored our first point, we started playing Hawks basketball again. Like Trae Young started driving in, feeding Jalen Johnson, feeding Kristaps Porzingis. Trae Young actually, before he got injured, was set to have a really good game. He had a nice and-one in the first quarter as well. Zachary had a really good transition dunk. Kongu had a good dunk off the rebound. We were attacking the inside very well. The second quarter when the tragic incident happened between Trae Young and Muhammad Gay.
I need to stop you for a quick
Yeah.
sec. Is there anything you can do in terms of your Wi-Fi? Because you keep cutting out really bad on my computer, and I think
Yeah, mine
because
too.
I'm the one that's recording, it's probably going to take my footage. So I didn't know if there's anything you could do to maybe fix it, but it is like cutting out really bad now.
My Wi-Fi is on. I don't know. It says I have full bars, so I'm not too sure why I'm cutting out.
Maybe it's the room you're in. I don't know.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you out really quick, and then you join right back in. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Chase is gone for now. Actually, you're gonna have to take yourself out. Wait, no, talk again. Talk again. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Talk again.
Am I good?
Yeah,
You're
you're
back.
good.
You're perfect.
Oh,
You're good.
back. Okay, good.
Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
perfect.
Keep rolling.
Ooh,
Keep
we're
rolling.
back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Keep rolling.
As I was saying, it was early in the second quarter where incidentally Trae Young was standing under the rim. A Kongwu, fell out of bounds right under the basket where Trae was standing,
That
and
was
just like,
Muhammad Gay.
oh, that's what I meant. I said a Kongo, I meant gay.
Yeah,
And Trae Young had his leg extended, and Muhammad Gay just fell on the outside part of his leg and kind of just like hyperextended his knee, is what it looked like. And initially, it didn't look too bad. I mean, Trae Young
yeah.
stayed on the ground for a while, but he got up and told
Yep.
Quinn Snyder, like, I'm good. I'm staying in the game.
Which
But
I respect that. I respect
yeah.
that.
Trae Young was like, I'm good, like I'm staying in the game. But then on that same possession, Trae Young's running down the sideline, heading to the corner. And right when he gets to the corner, he stops, hold his knee. He looks at Quinn Snyder. He's like, I'm done. Like, I can't run. And then he goes in the locker room, and unfortunately, we never saw him return. And it was later that night that we knew it was a knee injury, but it wasn't
You just know
until
how bad it was.
yeah, it wasn't until what, yesterday when we got the official report.
It was either yesterday or Friday. I think was it yesterday? Or was it
I think it was yesterday.
I, I think it was either yesterday or Friday when we
Hold
found
on,
out.
let me pull it because I told you guys.
I think it was
remember.
yesterday.
Yeah.
'Cause I was getting
This
I was getting
was-
down and dirty on the dance floor at the wedding we were
No,
at
it
yesterday.
might have been Friday. I think it was before the wedding we knew this.
Yeah.
While Jordan's looking for it, basically what it was a knee injury, of course, but they said
This
he's gonna be out for 4 weeks.
This was during the wedding. This was during the wedding.
Okay.
It was yesterday.
Yep.
So he's going to be out 4 weeks, but he's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. So there's a chance that after his reevaluation, he could be missing even more time.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how he is in rehab.
Yeah. So a month is just a minimum, which I know we already kind of talked about. It's sad that already game number 5 of the season, Trae Young's already going to miss a significant amount of time. Kind of fits the theme with the NBA now. We see injuries left and right, but Trae Young's never been a guy that's missed a significant amount of time. This is his first really bad injury since joining the league.
Yeah.
And obviously, you don't have to talk about the downside of this because we're without Trae Young, without a superstar. But the bright side is we're deep. We have all kinds of depth on this team. So it's not like we're shorthanded to the point where we can't compete. We can still play really good basketball without Trae. And we actually have played really good basketball without Trae, starting with this game against Brooklyn, where we only won by 5. We had full control of the game for the majority of the time, but it was in the fourth quarter when Brooklyn really started to make their strides back into this one. It came down to the wire where the Hawks ultimately pulled it out. We played some great defense down the wire. But, I mean, Jalen Johnson was the top scorer again with 23.7 rebounds. Kristaps had a good game, 14 points, really good defensively. Luke Kennard, this was his first game where he was finally just lights out from deep. 17 points, had a handful of three-pointers. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 18. He was a dominant force inside. And shout out to Okongwu with 14 rebounds. He was the man on the glass. And, I mean, you look at this Nets team, the only guy that was truly unstoppable was Michael Porter Jr., and he could score from anywhere on the court. He finished with 32 points, 9 assists, almost a double-double. But outside of him, I mean, Cam Thomas had a good game. Nick Claxton played all right. That's about it. The Nets just they have no depth at all. If it's not in Michael Porter Jr.'s hands, it's in nobody's hands. They're not scoring practically, which gave the Hawks a lot of ease. All we had to do was Dyson played really solid defense on Michael Porter Jr. on the perimeter, and then when he came inside, Okongwu took care of the rest. And for the most part, it worked. Brooklyn took a lot of really bad threes. When I mean, they shot 37, but a lot of them, me and Angie looked at each other and said, what the crap are they doing? So it's clear the Brooklyn's still trying to find their identity. They had 16 turnovers as well, which helped the Atlanta Hawks. The only downside, really, I mean, we played great defensively, but it was very aggressive defensively to the point where we had a lot of fouls, 26 fouls. And there was one point, in the second quarter where we fouled, 4 times in like 3 minutes, or something like that. So, and it wasn't necessarily anything crazy. It was just ultra aggressive defense. That's really what it came down to. But in the end, did it really harm us any? They missed 6 of their 27 free throws. Hawk shot about 50% from the field, 40% from deep. Luke Kennard was the best man beyond the perimeter. But if I guess I can kick it to you, John, if you want to break this game down in a little more detail.
Which game, the Brooklyn game or
the Brooklyn game?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think you covered it. Basically all of it. Yeah. So it's like one area that we like. I mean, so like, I guess one area that we like completely dominated in, like, I might say, like, was the assists and the steals. We had 11 steals to their 4. I mean, just turnovers. Yeah. I mean, just first. Just forcing turnovers in general. Would be great, but also like the fast break points. We had 18 fast break points, and then we had 5, and we had 50 points in the paint to their 46.
Oh yeah.
So overall we played pretty well defensively.
Yeah, and this is the thing you have to expect with this Brooklyn Nets team, which is why I wasn't really too worried about it in the first place, even when Trent went injured. Because, I mean, look, Michael Porter Jr. was asked by a reporter, how do you like being in Brooklyn after coming? You just came from the Denver Nuggets, who were you won a title with them. They've been title contenders pretty much since you've stepped foot in that place, and now you're in the rebuild process with Brooklyn. And he was ecstatic. He was like, I'm having a lot of fun because this is my opportunity to really show the kind of player I can be when I'm a standalone kind of guy. Because when he was in Denver, he was kept underneath the shadow of Nikola Jokic. And yeah, they played well together, but nobody really knew what MPJ looked like when he had to take control of a team himself. And he's phenomenal. I mean, when he gets space and he gets hot, he knocks down some shots that just get flat out ridiculous and kind of annoying when you're a defender. And he's a good contact finisher. He's able to create shots for himself at the mid-range spot. And honestly, he's very athletic. He's very fundamentally sound, but he can get a little creative with how he gets to the rim. And that's what makes him so unpredictable for a lot of these wing defenders. Even Nickeil Alexander-Walker was having trouble containing him when he got inside the arc. But this is what makes the Nets such a bad team at the same time, because they're fun to watch, because like Chase said, they'll take a lot of questionable shots. But it's a bunch of players that want to make a name for themselves to get out of the running. Like, I hate to put it that way, but that's really what the Brooklyn Nets are. And I guarantee you, the moment the opportunity presents itself, MPJ is going to wind up somewhere else. That's just that's just the reality in the current status of this situation. And that's how the Hawks were able to take good control. Jordan, you talked about it. Fast break points was a big giddy up for the Atlanta Hawks at the end of this game. And yes, we created a big lead for ourselves. And yes, we kind of lost it in the fourth quarter, because there was a time, like Chase said, in the final minutes where it really looked like the Hawks were about to fumble this game. But we stepped up defensively. Dyson Daniels did his front court court job. Nikhil Alexander-Walker was such a great compliment, and it goes back to what I said. It was devastating to see Trae Young get out of the game, but it brought up the scenario. What if Quinn Snyder takes him out when defense is a prime necessity? And our defense stepped up, and that's what saved us that game. And I just wonder if that would have saved us the game in Chicago as well.
Well,
But
I do want to say it was really the first time we saw a lot of minutes shared between Nikhil Alexander Walker and Dyson on the court at the same time. And to your point, Angie, it was Nikhil Alexander Walker who came up with that huge defensive stop on the Nets' foul possession that ultimately sealed the deal. And yeah, so I mean, I think, and we're going to see it more notably in the Indiana game as well. How great of a backcourt Dyson and Nikhil Alexander Walker were, but it was in Brooklyn when that really flourished for the first time because of the Trae Young injury, which is again like a bright. If you want to find a bright side to his Trae Young injury, that's something positive you can definitely look towards.
Well, yeah, because it was something that us Hawks fans was very excited about. That's a
Yeah.
good point, Chase, because we knew Dyson and Nikhil Alexander-Walker were going to complement each other with the way they're such a good wing defender. So, yeah, you're right, Chase. I mean, yeah, that is one positive you can take because it gave the Hawks the opportunity to really showcase what that duo can do when they have to unite together. And we can't leave Brooklyn without not mentioning that Jalen Johnson poster from about a foot over the free throw line. I mean, my goodness, he almost pulled up a Michael Jordan on us. That was freaking phenomenal. So that was really fun. But let alone we got the dub. It wasn't pretty. It had its flaws. It had its heartbreak. But the team got together. They rebounded in the absence of Trae Young, and we won 117-112. And moving on to Indiana to open up the NBA Cup group play on the road against the Pacers, who again, back-to-back winless teams the Hawks are facing. We all know the offseason the Indiana Pacers have had to adapt to, losing Tyrese Halliburton in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which resulted in a loss, losing Miles Turner, your best inside player, to the Milwaukee Bucks, and now you've got to find a way to regroup. But thankfully, they have Pascal Siakam. But my goodness, even during the broadcast of this Indiana game, the camera panned over to the bench, and everybody was in street clothes because half the dang roster is injured. And I really felt bad for them. I mean, I really want to reach through my screen and give them a little pat on the back and say, hey, we're about to put this belt on you guys. But I do feel bad for you guys because there's really nothing you can do about it. It's the NBA, man. I mean, it's just something you're going to have to adapt to. And now the Hawks being without Trae Young, we were kind of looking at that mirror ourselves. Obviously, we weren't down 6+ players like they were, but we were without our star player. But my goodness, was this everything we could have dreamed of and more? Because right out the gate, again, Chase, you talked about it. This Hawks team got off to a slow start. Indiana gained early momentum. Pascal Siakam had some easy buckets. Shoot, he even nailed down a three-pointer from the perimeter to get
off
things
the
started.
glass. The ugliest three I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah, it was hideous. It was absolutely hideous. But then again, Jorner, I'm going to let you start because Chase and I were only able to watch the first half of this game because we were at a Halloween party. But thankfully, the Hawks were able to get up to such a big lead where we didn't have to worry about it. So, Jorner, talk about it. How in the world did the Hawks dominate the first quarter the way that they did?
I mean, I just think that, like I was saying earlier, the reason why Jalen Johnson should be our number one option is because of this game. He finished with 22 points, 13 rebounds, almost a triple double with 8 assists, 2 steals, a block. Zachary had himself a bit of a game, finishing with 13 points, almost fouled out with 4 fouls. But Kristaps had 15, Noah had 21. And Dyson had himself a game with 18 and 9 and 3 steals. So some GBT there, Great Barrier Thief. But someone's favorite player in this podcast had 11 points off the bench. Might have heard this again. Keaton Wallace Number 2. I don't know.
We haven't really talked about him a lot this podcast.
Have I said that before? I didn't think I ever told you guys.
Wait, is Keegan on the team? I didn't think he was still on the team.
I have no idea. I'm gonna think he was a G League player. I didn't know we had him on the team.
Dude, I didn't know y'all guys knew.
News to me.
I didn't know that I ever told you guys, but for those who don't know, I do love Keaton Wallace.
Keaton Wallace, Andrew, this will make you very happy. Finished 3 for 3 from the 3-point line. 4 for 5 from 3. 4 for 5 from the field, and and the Congo had 14 points off the bench as well. But I mean, other than that, our bench didn't really help out too much. But that wasn't really needed because like y'all said, we put belt to butt on the Pacers to finish or to start 1-0 in group play. Which, fun fact, last time we finished 1-0 without group in group play, we had Keaton Wallace had a breakout game.
Yeah.
We didn't have Trae Young. So I just think that not having Trae Young in group play games is key to our success. So
I'm glad you pointed that out because that was his first career start because like you said, Jordan, we were out Trae Young in that Boston game when he pulled off a miraculous upset against Kristaps Porzingis, who is now a former Atlanta Hawk. So a lot of ties between Keaton Wallace and group play, like you mentioned. But Chase, I want to throw to you because Jordan made a great point, and I think you can add on to this even more. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, no shadow of a doubt, this was easily his best game as Atlanta Hawk because of what he was able to do and how he was able to pick up this team with his 21 points. And I think we can say up front that fast breaks points was something the Hawks did incredibly well because we shot 54% from the field because we were able to find points in the paint. We scored 74 points in the paint to their 38, forced 12 turnovers off 10 steals, had 5 blocks. And Chase, I want to kick it off to you, and I want you to start with this man right here on Onyeka Okongwu because I know you know what I'm about to say here, Chase. There is a little moment in the game where Onyeka Okongwu knocked down a 3 from the top of the key, ran down to the other end of the court, got a monster block. I want to say it was on Aaron Nesmith, if I'm not going to.
It was on Siakam. Siakam went up for a dunk, and Okongwu absolutely swatted him. And they kept the ball in play, went down, and hit a 3 from the corner. So he had 6 points. He had 6.
He hit a 3 from the corner.
Yeah, that's what I said. Chicago did. He had 2 points.
Somebody else did. Yeah, so he scored 6 points with 1 block in the span of 25 seconds.
He had 2 blocks in the same possession. He had 2 threes and 2 blocks in 30 seconds.
And that really set the tone offensively for what the Hawks were able to do and how the Hawks were able to limit. Because once we took away the scoring option, which was easily Pascal Siakam, the Pacers really didn't stand a chance because they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't get inside. They had to rely on kind of like Brooklyn a little bit, taking some ridiculous shots. I mean, he shot almost sub 30% from the field. But Chase, I want you to really talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker because my goodness, was he a bright spot on this team.
We were kind of talking about it last episode when we were reviewing the first couple of games. He started the season with this weird thing. He started playing out of character, something he's never really done before. And he likes to take a lot of contested shots from 3. He tries to be a contested shooter from outside the arc, which is a characteristic to his game he's never really had before. And Minnesota, he was just a guard off the bench that was known for his defensive style, kind of like a Dyson Daniels, and his inside scoring. And then all of a sudden he comes to Atlanta and he tries to shy away from that, which is weird.
A new role. You can't blame him.
And that is true, but I wonder why he tried to step away from what he's known for, because that's what attracted to us to him in the first place was watching him play his style of basketball, his defensive guard, his driving inside, contact finishing in the paint in the postseason with the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's what we got him for. That's what we want him to play. And then for some reason, he started to be an outside shooter, a very contested outside shooter, and it just wasn't working. I would say Friday night against the Pacers was the first time we kind of saw him go back into what he's known for, what makes him to kill Alexander Walker, and that's his defensive presence in the backcourt, and then driving inside and attacking the rim and contact finishing, which he did phenomenal. Finished with 21 points, like you said, John. Had a lot of contested acrobatic layups. My favorite point in the game, the third quarter, when he drove in inside and had a nasty left-handed tomahawk that even Bob Rappin and Dominic Wilkins even talked about during the Cavs game tonight. It was just, and there's even a whole Instagram post about it. And he played that way even tonight against Cleveland, which is a good thing, which is with Trae Young being out, he's obviously going to be the starting point guard. So he needs to go back to finding his identity, what makes him unique, what makes him good, what makes him an NBA player, and use that to leverage the absence of Trae Young. Saw that in Indiana, saw that against Cleveland, and it's working well. He's a much efficient guard now. He's still great defensively, but now he's attacking inside and giving us those points in the paint, which we desperately need. Like you said, Angie, 74 of our 128 came from inside, and a lot of that was tip your captain to kill Alexander Walker.
But look what we were doing off the glass. Once we got the defensive stops, the Hawks were able to move the ball through their teammates down the court on fast breaks. Yep. And there were some possessions where we get a defensive rebound, and within 15 seconds, we've already scored a bucket inside the paint because all it took was a couple of 4 or 5 touch passes to move through Siakam, get through the guards, and find a lane to the paint. And we drew a lot of fouls that way because the Pacers got helpless on defense, and for a last-minute resort, most defensive guys will get off frantic, use their hands to grab places they shouldn't, and that results in fouls. And that's how the Pacers got in early foul trouble. That's how the Hawks were able to gain momentum, and the more desperate Indiana came, the worse their possessions got, where it got to the point where the Hawks just completely ran away with it, winning the third quarter 34-17 coming off the break, and we won this game by a whopping 20 points, 128-108, like Joyner said, to start 1-0 in NBA Cup group play, and we evened our record at 3-3, going into the final final road trip before our homestand, which starts on Tuesday against the Orlando Magic in Cleveland. And for those who do not know what happens every time the Atlanta Hawks go to Cleveland, you always expect a phenomenal basketball game, and that is exactly what we got tonight. And on par with everything else we said tonight, the Cleveland Cavaliers got off to a 16-4 run to open up this game. So right out the gate, the Hawks were already picking up the shovel, and we would not drop it. But and this was something that stayed consistent all throughout the game. The Atlanta Hawks, by far the sloppiest game we've had of the season when it comes to just overall ball movement efficiency. And it almost seemed like that we kept swapping out that bug between us and Cleveland, because this wasn't by any means a clean game from Cleveland as well. And quite frankly, that's the only reason this game remained competitive, because aside from Donovan Mitchell, the Cleveland Cavaliers shot 57 three-pointers. I didn't realize how much the Cavs lived and died at the free throw line. And my goodness, Donovan Mitchell, the freaking spider, he was a problem all night long. It got to the point where it just became annoying. In the second, we really made it a priority in the second half, which I'm really glad Quinn Snyder put emphasis on Donovan Mitchell, because we had Dyson Daniels sticking to Mitchell like white on rice in the second half. And for the most part, it contained him until it was too late when he got subbed in the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then he started making those ridiculous shots again. He had a deep three to get things going off the timeout. Then he had the and one drive with about 2 minutes left of the game, which really put the game out of reach and put an exclamation mark on it. The Hawks, we struggled from the three-point line. We shot 6 for 23, which is 26%. From the field overall, we shot 51%. So not too bad, but I'm going to throw this number at you, and I think you guys are going to paint the picture yourself. The Hawks had 22 turnovers, and you look at that and you're like, well, my goodness. I mean, the Cavs were without Jarrett Allen. They were without one of their best defensive players inside the paint. So what was going on? Were they poking the ball? Were they getting steals? I mean, they have Larry Nance Jr. at the forward. He's known for playing good defense. I mean, Jalen Tyson's got 25 minutes. Surely he had some quick hands, but no, most of these turnovers were self-inflicted wounds. I mean, we were trying to do these weird things where we try to cut in through the wing. We get a shoulder. We couldn't. It was like we ran to a brick wall. So to try to keep the ball rolling, we try to make some kind of forceful ball inside where it was congested, which led to a turnover. And there were some times which Zachary, my goodness, he could not hang on to the ball. There'd be times where he's trying to bounce around a screen on the off ball to get to the wing, and we dish it out to him, and it just fall off his left hand and go out of bounds. Like, it's just these things where you wonder if the Hawks were getting into their head too much. Like, this is a big game in Cleveland. We want to establish the win before we go home. Get a nice 3-game winning streak going on our trip back to Atlanta, and we weren't staying focused. We weren't staying sharp on our ball movement, and we tried to do too much. And there was a moment in the game, especially towards the end, where the Hawks really stepped up defensively, because we knew the situation. The entire game we were digging ourselves holes, getting right back up, and pulling ourselves right back in, because every time we forced a turnover defensively, we would give the ball right back because we didn't make the most of our opportunities. Joyner, I'm gonna throw to you, man. I mean, we just wrapped up this game before we hopped into this episode, so I know it's still fresh on our mind. But you tell me what you think the biggest roadblock was for the Hawks, because it really felt like we deserved this win because of how good we played defensively. But man, the offense was just not there tonight.
I mean, there's two issues. One, that the first quarter, that was just abysmal.
Yeah.
It was that, and then also Donovan Mitchell. Like,
what can you do, man?
Like I said, most of his shots were from beyond the arc. He shot 12 for 21, 8 for 15 from 3. So most of his made attempts were from beyond the arc.
Yep.
When that happens, like, that's pretty much Curry. That's pretty much Steph Curry right there. Like,
I even. And to your point, John, Bob Rathbun made a little comment around the third quarter where he said that ever since Quinn Snyder came to Atlanta, every time Donovan Mitchell has played Quinn Snyder in the Atlanta Hawks, he's averaging like 28 points a game. Dropped what was the exact? No, 37 tonight. His first game against Quinn Snyder dropped 42 in Atlanta. So I mean, he's like the Io of the Cleveland Cavaliers for us. Is no matter ever since Quinn Snyder's been part of the Hawks, every time we play Donovan Mitchell, he's dropping insane numbers on our head.
Because that's his former coach. Because he used to coach down in Utah when they were in Utah together. They used to be a duo. So
and again. We did mention that the Cavs were without Jarrett Allen. So, and the Hawks kind of took that to their advantage because pretty much the only time we were able to score was inside the paint. Now, we were without another bench player ourselves, Keaton Wallace. I don't know if I told you guys, but I do like Keaton Wallace. I don't know if I said that yet, but I do like Keaton Wallace. And unfortunately, he was out with the illness. So get well, my baby Boo Bear. I hope that he gets better soon. I sent him some kisses and, I gave him some alphabet soup. So I'm hoping that he's going to be okay. But so he should be back on Tuesday. No, he doesn't like ginger ale. I know my baby very well. He doesn't like ginger ale.
My bad. Sorry, I
But
overstepped.
yeah, he's more of a Canada Dry kind of guy.
That's
If
ginger
we're
ale.
talking ginger ale, but yeah.
Okay.
So but yeah, scoring on the inside. And look, I want to point this out. I want to make this known because one of the biggest talking points for the Hawks early in the season was there's a lot of Hawks fans, and this really annoys me. You guys might have seen it too on social media, but they're kind of blowing things out of proportion with Dyson Daniels, saying that his offensive struggles is making it seem like the Hawks made a big mistake by giving him that contract extension.
That's not what we signed him for. We didn't sign him for his offense. We signed him for his defense.
He had 5 steals. He had 5 steals tonight.
We
5 of
signed
them.
him for his defense. We've got Jalen Johnson. We've got Kristaps. We've got Trae Young when he gets back healthy. We've got Naw. We've got Kennard. We've got offensive guys. We don't need Dyson to drop 30 every night.
And
We signed him. We signed him because he can steal the ball and nobody else in the league. He led the league in steals by.
He was the runner-up D-point and the most improved player.
Should have honestly won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes,
and that's an argument for another day.
Actually, we did play against the reigning D-point, the reigning D-point, and Evan Mobley, which looking at his defensive stats real quick, if I can pull them up.
While you're pulling it up, look at the steal ladder right now. Dyson Daniels is on track to lead the league in steals again by another wide margin. That's why we signed him.
But that's what I was going to say. Every time I see those kind of comments on social media, I can't help myself but to go in the comments and defend my guy because listen, you can look at all the offensive struggles all you want, but here's the prime reason of why he gave him that contract. It's what you guys said. The Hawks won the game against Brooklyn off points off turnovers. The Hawks the points off turnovers is the only reason we were in the game in Chicago. Points off turnovers is the only reason the Hawks had a chance to win this game in Cleveland. You can look at all the offensive struggles you want, but that fact in and of itself makes me set my feet solid on the fact that he deserves this contract because he makes a difference because of how much he contributes to those points off turnovers. And even tonight, I mean, it's not like he lacks offense entirely. We've seen bright sides. He's getting better. Look at tonight, scoring 18 points. 3 rebounds and 3 assists and 4 rebounds. And it's not like he doesn't know how to score. He's just got to know where he thrives because he does a great job when he gets space in the paint and he can knock down a few floaters. And granted, he's a great contact finisher. We saw him in the fourth quarter have a really big and 1-3 tough contact off the glass with his left hand. Like he has the capability to do that. He had a couple of great transition fast break points off turnovers that cough he created for himself. Like, and it just really infuriates me because of how much of a defensive presence he's brought to this team. And you have some people have the nerve to say, well, because he's not scoring 20 points, he doesn't deserve that money. Because John, you said it in the start of this episode.
We don't need for offense.
Championship.
We don't need for offense. So, speaking of defense, Evan Mobley, the reigning defensive player of the year. Jaden Dyson. Sorry. I'm
okay. Right now. Yeah, we understand.
It happens.
He had 3 steals and 1 block. I mean, pretty much the same stats as Dyson, but Dyson had 4. Dyson had 4 steals and 1 block. But like Dyson also outscored him too. With 8 points, like you said. So,
and here's another thing. Well, I guess like I was going through like my key thing for tonight. I think what frustrated me the most tonight was offensive rebound. The amount of second chance opportunities that Cleveland had were really, really bad. And to your point, you're talking about how they just dumped 57 attempts from beyond the arc. They made 40 total field goals tonight. 20 of them were beyond the arc, which means half of the point shots that they made were 3-pointers. I don't think I can't remember the last time I've seen the Hawks go against a team that was this trigger happy from beyond the arc. And
aside from Brooklyn, maybe.
Yeah, but even then, it wasn't this bad. But it was Donovan Mitchell that was take outside of Donovan Mitchell. If you take away all the threes he made, they had a really bad night from beyond the arc. That's another thing that just kind of digs a knife deeper. And it's like, if we could have prevented that in the first half, if we could have stuck Dyson on Donovan Mitchell like we did in the second half, maybe it's a different outcome. But a lot of times they did miss a three, which was a lot. They most of the time they'd get offensive rebound and create second, even third chance opportunities. And when you're having a night where you're struggling offensively, you can't allow that to happen. That's just going to punch you in a deeper hole. And it was one of those games where we'd be down by 8, we'd get within 2, down by 9, tie the game, back and forth in that sense. And it was exhausting to watch because we get so close yet so far to finally, get in control of this game. We were just never able to get that full control. And if we just made a couple of adjustments, maybe in the first half or in the second half, there's a lot of things that could have gone our way that would have changed this outcome.
Yeah, and if you look at the rebounding numbers, we did out rebound them, as a matter of fact, 46 or 44.
Which is shocking.
When it comes to the offensive rebounds, they had 13, 2 or 8, and a lot of that came in pivotal moments when we really needed stops, but the Cavs kept extending possessions, running more clock, which eventually led to more scoring. And it's been a problem all season long. We've seen it the last 3 or 5 years. The Hawks have got to limit the amount of second chance points we're letting our opponents score, because that's been a big killer in late game situations. And it resulted in a loss. This was a win we could have easily had if we had A, more offensive efficiency, B, less turnovers, and C, just more defensive rebounds altogether. And we couldn't make free throws. I mean, we really struggled from the free throw line tonight, which also could have made a difference. Kristaps missed a lot of early free throws. Jalen Johnson surprisingly missed 2 pivotal free throws in the fourth quarter, which kind of, again, put the game out of reach for Atlanta. And we lost this game 117 to 109, but it was a lot closer than the 8-point margin makes it appear. And now our next games coming up this week, November 4th, Tuesday at 8, we've got Magic at Atlanta, and then we go back on Friday. So we get a 3-game break from the Magic game to do our second group NBA Cup game at home, the rematch against the Toronto Raptors, which belted us down on opening night. And then we cap off our homestand on Saturday night to cap off a back-to-back at home against the LeBron-less and the Luka-less.
No, Luka's back.
Oh, Luka's back. Okay, my bad.
He came back last night, yeah.
Okay, well, Luka, Los Angeles Lakers. But my gosh, I'm more worried about Austin Reeves than anybody else.
He's been balling, dude.
He's going insane.
But yeah, guys, that's where we stand right now. We're 3-4, 1-game losing streak, but we've got a promising week ahead. We were able to handle Orlando on the road in the second game of the season. Now, Orlando's been playing better basketball as of late, but they're definitely not magical by any sense of the imagination. So I feel like we can pick up ourselves, get this win on Tuesday, rebound against the Raptors on Friday, start 2-0 in the NBA Cup group stage, get a big win at home against the Lakers. Now all of a sudden you're 2 games above 500 and you're feeling great going to LA on another road trip. So do you guys have any closing remarks?
Do you want to do your start bench cut or are we out of time for that?
I can make it a quick one. I can make it a quick one. Sure. Okay. So start bench cut that I was going to present to you guys. I guess it's actually kind of fitting that we're doing this at the end of the episode because it kind of leans on the points that we were making earlier. I want you guys to start bench cut your top 3 most, not the best players, but the top 3 most surprising players that you've seen since Trae Young has went down. So what are the top 3 players that you feel like have stepped up the most in the absence of Trae Young? And that can be in any sense. It doesn't have to be in scoring necessarily. It can just be in other aspects of the game, of course.
I got my list. Okay. I'll go ahead and knock it out. I'm gonna put number 1 Jalen Johnson, and saying that I'm starting Jalen Johnson, and this is the first time we've seen Jalen Johnson play without Trae Young. He's always played alongside Trae Young, but now that Trae Young's injured, the opportunities opened up to him to kind of showcase more of himself, and he's showing that he can be more of a offensive presence than we originally, I guess, gave him credit for. Meaning, like Jordan mentioned earlier, he can be the number one option. He can be the primary scorer. And the way he just explodes inside, attacks the rim, off the ball movement, everywhere defensively, like he attacks on all cylinders, and he's showcasing himself to be more of a dangerous and a versatile player than maybe we would have noticed if Trae Young never got injured. And again, not saying that's a good thing, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm gonna put him at number one. I'm going to bench Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the reasons I mentioned earlier. I like how, since Trae Young's injury, he's adjusting to what he was before, what he was in Minnesota, and he's been a more inside attacking the rim presence since Brooklyn. That's something I really appreciate. And then I'm going to say Muhammad Gay. Now, we didn't see a lot of him today. I think a lot of that was because we gave Vitz the 23 minutes, which is the most minutes he's got all year. But Muhammad Gay, just in general, the way he's played defensively is phenomenal, and he has a sneaky part to his offense. He moves quick. He's a great catch and shooter. He drives baseline very quick and attacks the rim. He's very in touch with like chemistry, movement, in terms of inside scoring. So I'm gonna say Jalen Johnson 1, and Nah 2, and Mo Gay 3.
What about you, Jordan?
Okay, so y'all might be a little shocked at my answer, but I'm not starting Jalen.
Okay.
But I'm gonna start Dyson.
Dyson, okay.
Because not counting the game that Trae Young got hurt, the game, the two games that the 2 games since the Pacers and this game against the Cavs. If my phone will load, I'll tell you why. Dyson's been doing a lot more scoring than what we need him for. Like we were arguing about earlier against the Pacers. He dropped 18 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals.
Yep.
And then again, just today he dropped. He dropped 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block. He's averaging 18 points since Trae Young's been went down. So that's why I want to. I'll just get some like to. I'll just give a shout out to Dyson for stepping up on the offensive side of the ball. And then for bench, I'm gonna bench Jalen Johnson. Because like we've expected him to like play out. Playing that training or not, but since Trae Young did get hurt, when he's like staying in the game, just taking this game a bit a step further. So I want to give him a shout out for that, and then I'm gonna do bench Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Just because like he's also been just because he has been the guy to replace Trae Young. I'm at the point guard position, so he has to take those Trae Young minutes and just play well, which has been playing well, just filling in the Trae Young's role. So that's my list.
So I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I'm going to start Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I think by far, especially since he's kind of adapting to a new role on this team, he's really able to find his new identity with his new role on this team in the absence of our best player, and he has really excelled his game and it's taken it to a place it's never been before. Secondly, I'm going to put Jalen Johnson on the bench because, yes, this is his first time playing without Trae Young, and he's doing it very, very well, becoming the number 1 scoring option for Atlanta, like we all figured he would be. And third, I'm going to put Onyeka Okongwu because I feel like he's just kind of expanded his game a little more since this Brooklyn game. We've kind of seen him play a little more freely as opposed to just one spot on the court. And I think he needs to continue to explore that because he's really become a really reliable option from the 3-point arc, even more so than he was last season. But I believe that is where we're going to end things here. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to another episode. We will see you guys same spot next week talking about the new 3 matchups. Hopefully the Hawks go 3-0 this week, and hopefully we are 2-0 in NBA Cup group play by the next time we talk to you guys. This has been Talking ATL Hawks as myself, Andrew, John Joyner, and Chase Jefferson signs up. Caw.
Cool.